Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Conversations regarding mental health. You're here because there's nothing on the telly. And I'm coming to you live from the old Heale Manor. I'm your host, Lord Heale. So tonight, I've got a cracking guest. It's going to be a fascinating chat we've got tonight. So, as always, don't forget the old live awesome pub quiz every Tuesday over on the quiz channel. The Duchess, she's put together another fantastic one for next week. And if you missed this week's or any other of the weeks, just go back and have a go at them. And all you need to do is pop your score in the comments. But this show, Everyday Conversations regarding mental health, is all about talking about mental health, mental well-being, taking the stigma out of mental health, making it okay to talk to people about it. It's okay not to be okay. But this evening, the lady we're going to chat to, Cathy, she's had a near-death experience, and she's going to tell us all about that. So without too much further ado, here's Cathy.
Oh, thanks for the applause. That was so nice.
Welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
You are absolutely most welcome. I'm looking forward to this chat.
Yeah,
So,
I'm excited to be here.
It sounds fascinating what's happened. And as I understand, it's not once but twice.
Yeah, two times.
Yeah. You don't want to make it third time lucky though, do you?
I better be lucky the third time around, because that wasn't really happening when I got turned away twice. That's for sure.
Oh dear, poor old Peter.
Yeah, I know.
But there you go. So, can you tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about you, and how you got to
Yeah,
nearly doing it twice?
yeah. Well, my name's Cathy Gabrielsen, and I'm excited to be here and share my story because, like you said, Tim, you're not alone. And, no one that suffered from mental health challenges we're all just each other in disguise, feeling the same thing. But I am a wife, a mom of two boys. I used to be a teacher, and I founded a nonprofit and was an executive director for years. But like you said, I did cross the boundary to the next plane two times. And I'll tell you a little bit about the first time I did. I was in high school, and I was just 18 years old. And I was with my boyfriend, and we were nice senior year, getting ready to graduate, and we were leaving a party. There was no drinking or drugs or anything like that of any kind. And we went down a sharp curve in the road. And right before we went around the curve, I heard this voice out of nowhere scream, put your seatbelt on. This was, oh gosh, in 1988. And I put my seatbelt on right away. And then as soon as I did, I hollered to my boyfriend at the time, who was just 17, put your seatbelt on. But he didn't put his seatbelt on, and we went off the road, and we fell into a deep ravine, and so far in that cars didn't know, and other people didn't know that we were down there. So we were down that ravine, and I just remember seeing mud and leaves, and it just in a hole, and I had no idea where I was, and I was going in and out of consciousness. But I knew my boyfriend was slumped over the steering wheel next to me, and he just kept moaning and saying that he needed help. And that's pretty much all I remember, except I remember seeing the light, kind of just looking at the clouds, not knowing where I was going, screaming, but then there just being complete kind of silence. And I knew I was hurt. I knew I was bleeding. I remember seeing the blood all over me because I had smashed the windshield with my face. And wherever I was, I sensed that they were healing me, that they were repairing me, that they were fixing me. And I saw beings all huddled together, and I knew I was on the other side. but they were having these conversations without me. I wasn't really aware of what they were saying, kind of listening, but not really hearing them completely. And I got the idea that they were saying that I had to come back. And I was told that I had to come back and I had to help heal my boyfriend, the one that was slumped over the steering wheel. And I remember waking up in the hospital and being under the bright light now, but in the hospital bed. I had just lost consciousness and then became, awoke in the hospital room. And they were working on me, and I was screaming because I couldn't understand why they were hurting me, because I thought I was already fit. I thought I was already healed, because that's what I thought that they did when I was on the other side. And my boyfriend was traumatically brain injured, and he actually they tried to resuscitate him 7 times, and he did end up living, but he ended up living with a traumatic brain injury, and he was unable to do anything except blink his eyes for 20 years. And I was by his side for years, every single day. Even though I was a young student, I switched my plans and came home and went to school close to home so I could be by his side, because I was told that I was going to help heal him. And so I would go every day to visit him, thinking that was going to happen. I never told anybody, because I grew up in the Catholic family, and anybody would have thought I was crazy. And who was I to have this special healing gift that was given to me from heaven? I told no one. I remember being in the hospital and wanting to tell the nurse what had happened, but I just didn't. And I buried that experience and just buried the idea that it happened. And then 20 years later, after my boyfriend died, I was a mess. I started, it was the beginning of really suffering, because I didn't understand why he never healed, because I always thought I was supposed to do that. And it was just really terrible. Went into a really dark night of the soul. I had a cancer at an early stage, and started with the anxiety and depression then. And about 7 years after my cancer, I had developed advanced sepsis when I was on vacation with my 2 young sons and my husband. And that time on the other side was really significant. I was really sick, and I knew I was dying because I could sense it. It was almost like I knew what it felt like, because I had died before. And I remember there was an emergency surgery. I had had breast cancer. So when I had sepsis, the emergency surgery was going to remove my breast again, because I had somehow gotten an infection, and it was stemming from my reconstruction that I had had after my breast cancer. So anyway, so I had emergency surgery, and I was almost, they told me I was a couple hours away from life support, and I was really sick. And I was in the hospital for a few days after I was the emergency surgery. I can remember being in my hospital bed and floating above it and seeing myself, and feeling the pull to go to the other side, feeling it. And I remember my mom came to visit me, and I said, I'm dying. And she said, no, you're not. And I said, no, yes, I am. And then I remember I was tired of being in the hospital. My husband and my kids were leaving to go home from vacation, and I wanted to go home with them. But I was still really sick. I had been in the hospital for about a week, but they were just managing and trying to manage the infection and figure out, what it was exactly and where it came from. And I wanted to go home. So I checked myself out of the hospital against doctor's orders, but I just wanted to go home with my family. And so we went back to the hotel to pack up the bags. And I knew when I got to the hotel, I was like, that was a bad idea. I should never have done that, because I'm still really sick. And my kids were so excited to be with me, and I was laying with them in bed. It was the night before we were supposed to fly out to go back to Philadelphia. And I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe. And the whole time after my surgery, I just had a really hard time breathing, and I had a hard time talking. And I was laying between them, and I was really struggling for air. And being that I'm Catholic, I prayed, to the Holy Spirit to fill me with light. And I said that over and over and over again. And I was terrified because I really knew I was dying. And then I just remember going into the light. I just remember passing my relatives, and I was like a welcoming home party, and seeing everybody, and then hearing the angels, singing. And it was absolutely just unbelievable to be surrounded in that beautiful feeling of peace, and so we long for. And I saw my God the way I see him, as the master healer and Jesus. And what I have come to learn is that people see their own versions of their God when they cross over. And he approached me, and I was like, yeah, here I am. I had cared for my brain injured boyfriend. I supported thousands of people that were suffering from cancer. I was of service my whole life, and I really thought that I had made it, that I got through, and I was back in heaven, and I was going to stay there. And Jesus was hugging me, and he said, no, it's not your time. You still have work to do. And I was blown away. I just really thought I had sacrificed so much of my life for others for so long, always putting them before myself, that I couldn't understand what happened. And I received again more gifts to heal, and I was supposed to know what to do with these gifts, but I just didn't know. And when I came back from heaven the second time, I was terribly depressed. I had I was a debilitating anxiety and PTSD, and I really struggled for a long time. But the message is, when I was in heaven, was that I had spent my whole entire life but not really focusing on myself or the gifts that I had, and that I had the work to do, and that was to really help heal other people. And so I had to use those spiritual gifts to help other people that were suffering. And I first needed to help myself, and that was the one thing I realized um, that I really understood after going the second time, that I had never really taken care of myself, and that I had to take care of myself if I needed to take care of other people. And that's when I went, I don't know if it was an angel on my shoulder or somebody guided me to learn about alternative medicine and healing. And I just embraced energy medicine and how we can heal ourselves, the emotional part of ourselves, not just our physical body, because we're more than a physical body, we're emotional body. And I had to heal my emotions. And I did. I got off all my medication, and I wasn't suffering with anxiety. I wasn't dark anymore. My mind wasn't dull. I really healed. And now that's what I do. Now I have committed to use the gifts of healing to help other people. And yeah, so that's my story. So I really do hope that in the event that I go back, which I know is not going to be for a long time, because God said, I have too much work to do. So I don't imagine I finished all my work. So I'm pretty certain I'll be around, uh, sharing and healing, helping others.
Wow. Yeah, not not once, twice.
Yeah, I
Outrageous.
know. I know. Yeah.
So what's the work that you're looking at doing to help people?
Well, I want to help people that I want to try to eliminate suffering in the ways that I can. And um, when you go to that other side and you get zapped by that light, it's a pretty powerful thing. So I came back with kind of extra sensory, I guess you would say, type. I can kind of sense and feel, and I can see the suffering, and I can feel it in my heart, and help them heal the same way that I did. Using
Hmm.
the techniques that I did. Yeah, and yeah.
So let's have a look a little bit more about your recovery. You said you've gone through breast cancer,
Yeah. Mhm.
and the reconstruction went kind of awry,
Yeah.
which caused even more problems.
Yeah.
I guess that's the catalyst for giving you that post traumatic stress.
Yeah. 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 The PTSD was just uh, the trauma. I mean, you've had multiple traumas in your life, and mine was well, the accident was traumatic, but the breast cancer was traumatic, but the PTSD was losing my breast again in an instant. I
Mm.
mean, it's just going on vacation with my kids and my husband, and 24 hours later, a surgeon's telling me, that I'm either going to die or I'm going to lose my breast, and I just remember shaking my head like, "Whoa, wait, what is happening here? Wait, let me hold on, hold back."
Sounds
Um,
like he had great bedside manner.
yeah. And that was traumatic. And coming back from heaven was traumatic, really traumatic
Mm.
for me. I really wanted to stay. But I really believe that there was work for me to do and I had to do it. So,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
So how do you go about finding people to help in the first place?
Well, for after I had breast cancer, I was just a young mom. I had little babies at the time. I had a 2-year old, soon to be 3-year old, and soon to be 1-year old. And this was like, it was like pre-internet when everything was really right at your fingertips, and all the
Yeah.
information and help. And I just it was so hard to be a mom and take care of my kids and my family in the same way. And I wanted people to help me, but I didn't want to ask for it. And so I created a nonprofit where I did for other people that were going through cancer. What I needed was, I just wanted people to come in and play with my kids, do Play-Doh and paint and finger paint and have fun with them. And
Mm.
so I did that. I went into homes of other parents that had young kids and would go in and play with their kids. And then it turned into a really thriving Philadelphia nonprofit. So we help people in now all over the United States,
Mm.
families, both in person and remote. But yeah, that's where the trauma really came from. Losing my breast and coming back. Coming
Yeah.
back was really hard, really, really hard. Yeah.
Because I guess having cancer in itself, it takes it out of you. I mean, it's from my experience. I mean, I lost my late
Yeah.
wife through cancer. I mean, she had non-Hodgkin's high-grade lymphoma.
Uh-huh.
She got over the first time, and the second time it came back a lot more aggressive.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. Yeah.
So we lost her, but she was always tired. I mean, the chemotherapy that just wiped her out,
Yeah.
and it just goes in a cycle. So I guess
Yeah.
similar for you having breast cancer, having the
Yeah.
treatment, that tends to take you out of the game quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I guess
But yeah.
having two children, young children as well,
Yeah.
didn't make that process easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a different time. And, you know, I didn't really know any other 30-year-old women, 32-year-old women that were having mastectomies, and, going to the pizza place and playing with their kids,
Mm.
but I didn't really have anybody to really talk to. But it was the anxiety and the depression really were after my car accident. I had a tremendous amount of survivor's guilt for having survived the accident. And, and I couldn't really talk about my sadness, and my experiences and my fear of cars and curves. I mean, for I'd be hanging on the clutching seatbelts and stuff in a car for years, but I couldn't talk about any of that because my boyfriend was brain injured and could only blink his eyes, couldn't do anything for 20 years.
Mm.
So I didn't really talk about what was going on with me emotionally, and I just really stuffed away my feelings for years, and never shared them with anybody. And it was just like a pressure cooker that was building inside of me that just exploded. And
Mm.
and when I came back, it was the trauma and the anxiety from my second near death and the events that led up to it, on top of all the other stuff. It just was too much for me to manage anymore. Which just
Mm.
I just I couldn't cope. Like so many other people, I
Yeah.
couldn't do it anymore. And I just woke up one day and I was couldn't leave the house, and I was terrified all the time, thinking I was going to die. And yeah, I was just absolutely terrified. And I cried every single day for, I don't know, at least 3 months. At least 3 months. I
Mm.
just couldn't stop crying. It was just the years. It was just the years. And I truly believe that that's what made me really sick over my life. I tons of, so many illnesses and complications. Um, and then I really believe it was being emotionally sick and being mentally unwell that really was not good for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so many people bottle it up, and I think that's a lot of it is down to society as well, making you feel that it's a stigma, that it shouldn't be talked about, it should be covered up, it shouldn't be out in the open, and I think that has to change,
Oh,
if we're going to help everybody,
yeah.
because nowadays it's becoming a lot better for people to be able to talk about it. It's okay not to be okay, and to be able to talk about it,
Yeah.
and get it out in the open, and don't bottle it up. I think that's part of the problem. When you bottle it up, you try and deal with it yourself. That's when it becomes a problem, and then it starts manifesting itself into to anxiety, leading on to depression, leading on to feeling really unwell, and it's just a downward spiral. And I think coming out of it can be a real revelation for people that have finally sort of realised that I
Yeah.
can talk
Yeah.
about it. It
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it really comes into its own, where us as a society can talk about the difficult times that we've had. We can talk about how our feelings openly, without being ridiculed, without feeling that we shouldn't be doing it. We should be doing it, because that leads then onto our robustness, our resilience, our our, our feeling of wellness in ourselves. And once we can do that for ourselves, then we can start pushing it out to everybody. We can encourage people to talk about their feelings, to talk about how they feel, and to make it okay to do that. And I
Yeah.
think once we start that process, then and encourage people to do it, it then snowballs, and then
Yeah.
it progresses, and we get to where we need to be. And I think that
Yeah.
is one of the things that we're trying to do with this program, is to encourage people to talk about how they feel, talk about their problems, and say a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that goes a long way to being able to to mental resilience and well-being.
Yeah. Wow. It's your show is so amazing. And what you're saying is so true. And I would have, what a difference things would have been if I felt safe enough, if somebody just said it was okay to
Mm.
um, talk about my experiences, and it would have been a life changer, game changer for me.
Mm.
All those years, and because yeah, that's I needed to share, and I was under the impression that that wasn't possible, but there was so many people that were just like me, and the truth is I was never really alone, because there were so many people that felt the same way that I did.
And I think
Yeah.
if you look There's so many people that have similar problems. So many people that are bottling it up and
Yeah.
feel that it's not okay to talk about it, but it is. And as
Yeah.
soon as they see somebody, they can do it. I'm suffering the same as they are.
Yeah.
I can talk about it as well.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
and that's where we can do a lot of good, letting people know that
Yeah.
that's the way forward.
Yeah.
I mean, generations before us. I mean, you look at the generations of the First and Second World War, where they were taught not to talk about it, to bottle it all up. The guys in the First World War that were suffering from what they called then shell shock was actually PTSD, and
Hmm.
did sort of left the front line and then were executed because they were deemed a coward and stuff like that. In the Second World War, guys that went through horrendous things, particularly out in the Far East, and they came back and they never talked about it,
Hmm.
and they carried it all their lives. We've been seeing some of the guys from the Falklands War back in 1982 coming to the fore now with opening up about their problems, and there was a distinct two categories of guys. There was the guys that came back on the ships after
Hmm.
the conflict, that had that time to what we call decompress. And then
Hmm.
the guys that were flown back straight away to a hero's
Oh.
welcome and all that, those guys are the ones that are coming forward now that are having problems.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot that's going on in particularly in the UK at the moment. I know America and the Canadian forces and the Australian forces are now investing in talking about these problems and trying to
Hmm.
address them early
Hmm.
so they don't manifest themselves into massive problems later. And we're going to
Yeah.
see quite a lot of people suffering the next few years from the Afghan conflict and
Yeah.
the Iraq war.
Hmm.
But we I think now have the opportunity to be able to say that it's okay to be able to talk about it
Yeah.
and to get it out in the open so people can talk about it and make it an everyday conversation
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
away the stigma. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we can do.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, you're doing it. That's great. Having these platforms for people to share because I remember whispering to my husband, like, I think I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy. And the truth is, I wasn't crazy. I was just normal. I was just a
Yeah.
person that had suffered some trauma and was sad and was depressed. And I just had to work my way through it and work myself out of it. And if I would had allowed myself to do it, if we allow ourselves to do it, to experience it and to let go, and share. We realize that everyone is really just like us and that we all feel the same way. I was talking to I ran into a friend when I was walking my dog this morning, and I could just tell she was really sad. I could tell, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, you seem really down today." And she said, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And I could tell she was crying on the phone, and I know she struggles at times. Um, and I just said, "I'm here. We need to talk, and we need to be there for the people that are,
Yeah.
and we really do. We have to see it and let them know that we're here and be there for them, and yeah,
Yeah, I think that's really important. If you do come across a friend that you know is struggling, and you say
yeah,
to them, "Are you okay?" and they say, "Yeah, I'm fine," ask, "Are you really okay?"
yeah,
But if you
yeah.
if you do that, just make sure that you have the time to invest, just to
Mhm.
listen. Sometimes that's all it takes, is for,
Mhm.
to get somebody to open up and just to listen to them. So you've got two
Mhm.
ears, one
Mhm.
cake hole. Use them in that proportion. So they got the opportunity to get it off their chest, and at the end of it, they generally feel a lot better.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's the worst thing you can do is let them open up and then say,
Mhm.
"Sorry, I've got a scarper."
Yeah.
That can have that can have a detrimental effect. So
Yeah.
if you're going to do it, just make sure you've got the time to invest
True.
in
Yeah.
that person at the time.
I had a client yesterday I was talking to. She was a young girl, in high school, and she was really down, and she's, just kind of struggling. She was struggling, well, not even quite sure what she was struggling with, but really was she's struggling with the pressure of being a young girl in high school, and the pressures of social media, and the pressures of boyfriends and friends, and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think all of a sudden I started thinking about something about, but I think that the bottom line is that what she said was, I said, do you talk to anybody about it? Do you have anybody to talk to about it? And I said, you talk to your parents, you talk to your friends. And she said, I just don't want to tell anybody because I don't want to make them sad. I'm afraid that my story and what I'm going to say is going to make them sad. And what I reminded her of is that when you share with somebody, or you need help and you ask for it, you're giving somebody else the opportunity to give a gift to help, and it feels good to help people. And so when you ask for help and you want to share your story, I encourage people to share, because then you're giving an opportunity for somebody else to help you, and that feels good. It feels good to help people.
Yeah, and I think the more people that can see that happen, the more people that are that realise that by helping somebody, you are helping yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
are becoming a much better person
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
through that. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it is one of the great gifts that we can carry on giving is just to be able to listen to people's problems,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and if they get it off their chest, it's halved. They've told somebody about it. They don't need to bottle it up in themselves and make themselves worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a message that we can push out, is for people to be able to talk about it openly,
Mm-hmm.
and and to invest the time in somebody to
Mm-hmm.
help. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that really does go a long way to be able to get to where we are,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
where we
I would
want to
agree.
be. I mean,
Hmm.
there's still a long way to go,
Yeah.
and I think mental well-being, mental robustness is it has to be worked on.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. We have to nurture our mind. When we start
Yeah,
to sense it getting dull, we need to get out and move and share and be of service and help somebody else, and because it's in giving that we receive. And, really take care of yourself,
yeah,
journal and meditate. And there's lots of stuff. You got to get it out. That's the one thing I realized, is that we have to get it out of us. We have to release it in a healthy way,
yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you went through your cancer, were you offered any counselling at all,
I
or was it?
was I was, but I didn't take it. I didn't take it. I didn't want to be a part of the group sessions. I didn't think anyone would understand. I didn't think
Mm,
that I no one in the group was my age. None one in the group. They were all older women, and none of them were young women with young husbands and young kids. And I just felt really alone. And in retrospect, now I know how it would have been so helpful for me,
mm,
but I just wouldn't spend the time on myself. I figured it was
mm,
one more hour away from taking care of my husband and kids, and I had already made a muck of everything in the house anyway. I'd messed everything up. Wasn't going to do more for take more away from them, more of my time away
mm.
from them. So it wasn't helpful. It wasn't
No.
helpful that I did.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, what advice would you give to anybody that's in a similar sort of situation?
I would I would say that ask for help. Ask, reach out. There are people that want to help and be there for you. And I think the other part was I needed to tell myself every day that I never did was that I really matter and that my feelings matter and that my pain mattered and that there was help for me. And I just I didn't believe it then, and I wish I did, but now I can share that with others. And that I really needed, I wish that I had cared for myself more. And when I was sick and when I had cancer and when I was recovering from my sepsis, I wish I just stopped and like those soldiers that paused and had the time on the ship.
Yeah.
I wish I just was able to settle in. It was like I never grounded. It happened and I was like off doing the next thing. And I never just processed. I never just allowed it to sink in and
Yeah.
just move through me. It kind of just got stuck.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite amusing actually. Years and years ago, you would go into hospital for a minor operation, maybe have your appendix out,
Yeah.
and you spend a fortnight in a hospital, and then you go into a convalescent home for another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The same for when you have your tonsils out. They used to give you ice cream. Nowadays they give you toast.
Yeah. I know, right?
so, so,
Yeah.
so
I spent longer in the hospital after my tonsils when I was in fourth grade than I did when I had cancer.
yeah.
They took off my breast and kicked me out the next day.
Oh, that's outrageous. Just
Crazy,
outrageous.
crazy. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, how things have changed over the years. I mean, you look back at some of the old films and where people are spending weeks in hospital.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
nowadays, you're lucky to get into hospital, let alone spend any
I
time in
know.
hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah.
Well, Cathy, amazing story, and,
Well,
and thank you for helping people.
yeah. Well, thank you for helping people. Thank you for bringing this conversation out to the world and reminding people that, they're normal. They're just like us. And that it's time to talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
So
thanks for having me. Thank you very much for
you're
having me.
most welcome, and thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your story.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing story! What an amazing lady! And now what she's doing is helping other people. So all I can say is, if you're in a similar position, if you are struggling with your own feelings, find somebody you can talk to. Share the love. Share the problem. Get it off your chest. It's really, really the way forward. So until next week, we'll have another guest. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.